On the other side of humanity's coin, we have Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family. The Gambozos, if you will.
It started in a way that felt almost routine by now, with Donald Trump once again stepping in front of a rally crowd and steering attention away from policy discussions toward his ongoing fixation with Jimmy Kimmel, as if the same moment had been replayed too many times for anyone to ignore the pattern forming in front of them.
Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings.
The atmosphere inside the venue was already charged, with the audience reacting loudly before a single major point was made. But instead of shifting toward any new direction, Trump returned to an old comedic incident involving Jimmy Kimmel and treated it like a grievance that still demanded attention, while Kimmel, on the other side of the media divide, responded not with anger but with a calm, controlled appearance that reframed the entire moment in a way that immediately shifted audience perception, creating a clear contrast between political frustration and comedic precision that left the situation feeling unbalanced and exposed.
Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand. He's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment. He said his father is an artist with real estate. Yeah, he's an artist. He's Vincent Van Gogh to jail.
What followed was a moment that didn't rely on volume but on precision, as Kimmel's restrained response continued to circulate and reshape how the exchange was interpreted, turning what began as a televised conflict into something sharper and more revealing. While Donald Trump Jr.'s court statements leaned heavily on claims involving accountants and outside experts handling financial decisions, even as questions about responsibility remained central to the case, and meanwhile Trump himself stayed focused on public media confrontations, creating a split narrative where entertainment, politics, and legal pressure began overlapping in unexpected ways, slowly building tension as each development added another layer to an already expanding controversy that showed no sign of settling down anytime soon.
Don Jr. was not at Daddy Donald's last night. The prodigal son was being grilled as part of the $250 million case against their business. There he is, tiny soprano. I wonder what's going through his head right now. Here's the thing about Don Jr., what he lacks in intelligence.
Kimmel didn't need to add drama or exaggeration to make his point land. He simply quoted the words as they were, paused at the right moment, and let the silence do the rest, creating a situation where the audience itself filled in the meaning, and in that space the image of power started to shift, because once the Trumps are pulled out of rally-style messaging and confronted with their own recorded statements, the carefully built persona begins to weaken, replaced by contradictions, excuses, and a version of events that no longer feels as controlled as it once did. Especially when the focus moves from political branding to personal accountability.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
The narrative then widened further, moving from Donald Trump's repeated media grievances to Donald Trump Jr.'s courtroom explanations and into a broader pattern that seemed to follow the entire family, always circling the same structure of defense, where public statements stay loud and confident while pressure creates hesitation and blame shifts outward. And this is where a false claim began circulating online suggesting that Don Jr. had actually gone to the police because of Jimmy Kimmel's comments, a rumor with no verified basis but one that spread quickly because it matched the chaos of the environment it came from, feeding into a cycle where noise often replaces evidence and perception begins to outrun facts, while Kimmel responded in his usual restrained tone, allowing the contradiction to reveal itself without forcing it, and as the situation escalated, it became less about the rumor itself and more about how easily people believed it, because it fit into an existing public image of constant outrage, legal complaints, and victim narratives, which the family has repeatedly leaned on, until Trump once again escalated the exchange with personal attacks, continuing the cycle of reaction and counterreaction.
He's one of the dumbest human beings ever.
He even worked my wife in there. Should I be worried that Trump has mentioned my wife more times at his rallies this year than his own?
And his wife said, please don't do it. Please, darling, don't go out. He thinks he bothers me or some crap like that. I said he should have listened to his wife.
Instead of stepping back, Trump intensified the response, continuing to post, continuing to comment, and turning the situation into another round of public confrontation, while Kimmel shifted the dynamic in a completely different direction by turning the attention itself into material, transforming the ongoing backlash into content, jokes, and merchandise that reframed the conflict as something performative rather than powerful. And that shift changed how the audience responded, because suddenly the exchange no longer looked like a political standoff but like a media cycle where reactions themselves were being repackaged, and throughout it all Kimmel remained in the same position, calmly referencing the ongoing claims while Trump and Don Jr. continued to feed the narrative through repeated responses, creating a loop where each reaction added more visibility, and by the end the central idea became clear. The louder the outrage grew, the more it exposed the original trigger behind it, which was not control or dominance, but recognition they could not easily dismiss, and that is where the tension ultimately settles, right at the point where perception becomes more powerful than the performance itself.